Can I say this though? Would they say that it wasn't a thing of we've just come there to claim it? It's a thing of we've come there to take it back from what we thought it originally was from before. Hold on one second. Why are say this? How comes England's got a hand in everything? We in, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Alright, boom. Firstly, yeah, I just want to just let a couple people know a few things. Today, I might ask some uncomfortable questions. Like I'm trying to learn, and I'm not gonna know everything today. And maybe even some of the questions that I have, maybe you, like the people that I have here, may not be able to answer them, or maybe someone might say it a bit differently or whatever. I also want to say that this conversation that I said I was gonna have, like loads of people were hitting me like, have this person on, have that person on. Like the main people that you said to me to have on, I reached out to them. So like, when you see this conversation, don't say, yo, you should have had, I hit them and we did have some dialogue. Yes, who you're thinking about, I hit them, we had some dialogue and whatnot, and it couldn't happen this time around, but it will happen at some point. It was all calm, it was all love, it was just one of them type of things, timing, scheduling, whatever, and sometimes certain things just have to move on, yeah? Having these types of conversations for me personally, I feel like is not healthy to have a one-sided conversation. It's going to look one-sided. We've got a flag and stuff like that. Yeah. And this isn't going to be the last time I have this conversation, because I'm sure there's going to be things that I said today or questions that I might have asked or whatever that people might have a different type of perspective on. And I would like to hear it. I've always been, when it comes to certain things, I've always just tried to hear the for and against, just so that I could either learn and understand, or I could challenge my own thoughts and the way that I feel about certain things. This time around as well, I'm going to read the comments. Yeah. I think I only, when was the last time I read the comments? There was one other subject, remember?
There was.
Oh, it was the Wiley one.
Yeah,
the Wiley one. So yeah, I'm gonna read the comments today. I'm active. I'm gonna be in there, farming it back. Yeah.
So if you want to get Chuck's attention, this is your episode.
And also subscribing it. Fucking 100k in that. 102.
Keeping
Love
count.
to see it.
You get what I'm saying? So yeah. All right. So boom. Today, basically, someone I'd met while doing a recording here, I dropped the brother home, and I don't know why I gave you my number. Not on that kind of vibe. Yeah. It was just like, not like, oh, yo, do you want to hang, yo? It wasn't that. It wasn't that.
It was networking.
Yeah, it was networking. It was that kind of vibe or whatnot. And so when I'd recorded the last pod, as I was trying to, get the people that you wanted me to have on or whatnot, you'd hit me up with an interesting text message, and I thought, you know what? I could sit and have a conversation with you still. Do you get what I'm saying? You'll probably make me help me to understand a couple of things or whatnot. I feel like today we may kind of like, it will be beneath the surface. It may not. I don't know how. I want you lot to do a lot of the talking, to be honest with you, yeah. But you know what I mean. It is ways. And then also, actually say your name?
My name's Osman, or Oz for short.
Right. And you're originally from
Toronto.
Right. How long you been here?
It's been 4 months. A couple of days ago.
4 months, a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Right, man's keeping up like that, Like
I miss my people,
Yeah, you know when someone says, you know when you say to someone like, "How's your youth?" and they say like 16 weeks and 2 days.
And like 5 hours.
You're like, what? I'm like, okay. Yeah, it's his 17th week birthday.
Yeah, that's.
I'm like, okay.
That ain't it.
He's 158 days old.
I hear that. And you say your name?
I'm Meriam, guys.
Right, and then we connected because you just hit me on the gram and stuff like that. And this is okay. Can I just say this as well? Yeah, and I say this all with love. Clearly, if you've been watching the pod for a long time, you'll know that I'm just about having interesting conversations with interesting people or whatnot. Yeah, you don't have to have a name. Like I will just have a conversation with a stranger if it's interesting. But like when people hit me to want to come on, it's useful if you hit me with like why you feel like you want to sit down and have a conversation and what topic you feel is important or whatnot. If you just hit me and just say, hi, I'd like to come on the pod, then it's like you're not giving me anything. Do you get what I'm saying? You hit me and gave me something, and on top of that, I saw that you like was doing your own pod, and I was kind of watching you, even though I was like get going MIA, I was dealing with some real life stuff.
Yeah,
Do you get what I'm saying?
It happens,
But I was still paying attention to you and what you was doing and how you was articulating yourself and seeing what you were standing for and whatnot.
Yes,
So
appreciate it.
So yeah, I think it made sense that when you said that you wanted to be a part of this conversation, that we would make it happen. So, boom. I am going to be very honest and transparent and say this, yeah. I've heard about some stuff that's been going on, but I never was really paying a great amount of attention to it. Purely because, you know what, there's a lot going on in the world, and there's a lot going on with the injustice of my people. Yeah. And so like I pay a lot of attention to that. And also I try to keep up with a lot of things that are going on, but I can't keep up with everything. But I realized how serious this was when I went to Israel. Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, I remember
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Vice video.
So like I recorded.
That was sick, by the way. That was really, really cool.
Yeah,
was-
yeah.
when was this?
I went there to film. I was lucky enough. Vice hit me. I was doing a documentary. I do like a series of documentaries called Gangster Rap. Yeah.
Cool.
Where I go to like various different parts of the world. We film with a rapper, and like we're just about finding out about their life and what they're doing and whatnot. And like the first one I did was Ireland with a guy called Ink, who is, they say, is the godfather of drill. And he had a really interesting story. That was the first one I did. And then from then they told me, you know what, we got a plan, and I'm so grateful for it. Like it's given me some experiences that if I didn't do it again, which I'm actually supposed to be going away next week, yeah. But if I didn't do it again, I would be forever grateful for that opportunity.
Where
Because
exactly did you go in?
I went to Jerusalem.
So you went to Palestine. Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we'll get to that. So when I went there, usually when I'm filming docs or whatnot, I actually don't post anything until it comes out.
Yeah.
And then I just post like my perspective from how I was seeing it on my phone. But this time when I went, I posted something, yeah, and my DMs went mad.
What was the
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yo, what the fuck you do? And I'm like,
What was the post though?
I was there.
But what did you?
No, I was just there, and I just put that, like, you know when you put the location of where you're at. So
Did it say Jerusalem though?
It said Jerusalem,
So-
yeah.
Okay. That's.
I was just gonna say, and I'm not trying to say like, you know, this whole like the Wiley thing where like Jewish people control the media or whatever, but there's in the Israeli government, there's like a ministry of like propaganda arm or information arm where they get like celebrities to go to Israel
Right.
and do these things. So I remember Draymond Green, NBA player, went a few years ago. Same thing happened. Comments blew up. It was on Twitter. So I can understand why that might have been a thing, because somebody might have associated with like you being somebody with some sort of influence.
Yeah. No,
being
I was going,
fantastic
you know,
with that.
I was going there to film about,
Yeah.
you know, a black man who was from America, essentially. And he moved there with his best friend, and he moved there with his best friend, and they're both married to their sisters. And like, he just had a really extraordinary life to me.
Yeah.
And I know that like people who watched those docs, they would have seen like the Poland one, and because it was so mad and there was so much things going on and whatnot, that did really, really well. But for me, I can't lie, I have to say that like going there was a very interesting thing for me, because I saw a lot of things and I heard like some conversations being had, but also this guy was super interesting. So it was like, for me, if I'm being honest, from a selfish point of view, like I enjoyed the knowledge that I got from filming with a man who I just would never have thought would do something like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I would never have, if you would have said to me before, oh, there's a man from America, he's a black guy, he's converted to Judaism, and you're gonna go there and you're gonna go to a black Jewish wedding. Like to me, in my head, that's like I couldn't fathom it. So to be there and to see it was like an interesting thing for me.
You went in there not knowing the context.
I went there not knowing the context until obviously people were like, absolutely, some people were besides themselves that I was there. So teach me. Let's go back. Yeah.
How far back?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like what? Like okay, what is the necessary back? Like where? Like so, okay. I'll make it easier for you. Yeah. Am I right in the thought of prior to 1934 that this place was known as Palestine? Was it 1934?
1948, I believe.
Yeah. Yes and no. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, am I right? Because remember, I want to do this in a way that it's not just a one-sided conversation. I want to try, because I don't want to do. I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to understand. Yeah. Am I also right in thinking that, or like from my like research and whatever, thousands of years or hundreds of years before Islam was, I don't know, created or birthed or whatever, that Jewish people had felt like that was where they originally was from, but then it was essentially taken from them?
Yes and no. So from a faith perspective, like in the Quran, the storyline is, so the people of Israel, the children of Israel, were the people of Moses. Yeah. So prophet, like in prophethood, that was his people, right? So Islamically, what we believe is Islam was taught through Judaism, Christianity, and then Islam was its final form because it was people strayed away from it. Do you see what I'm saying? So you know how you have the Torah and then you have the Old Testament, the New Testament. Like we see as the Quran to be the final testament because the people of each prophet, except for the people of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, strayed away. Do you get it?
So basically, I don't mean to jump
okay,
in,
go ahead.
but just imagine like, you know, God was like, Jewish people, here's a religion, and then over time, you know, they move a little bit from the side, and then God was like, okay, cool, here's another person, Jesus, you know, to set you guys straight. And then that's where Christianity comes. And then I don't know the timeline between, I forget the exact number, but between Judaism and Christianity. But from Christianity to Islam is about 600 years between Jesus and Muhammad.
It's 600 years between when, sorry?
Christianity and
Jesus
Islam.
and Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're all prophets, but
but who was first? Who do people believe was first? Muhammad?
no,
Muhammad was the last
Was
one.
last.
Yes, so
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Jesus was before Muhammad, and then before him was Moses.
Okay.
So,
Abraham and-
so the Abrahamic faiths, the reason why the core of it is all basically the same is because we believe that it was taught through that route.
Right.
all the major players show up in the books.
Exactly, per like prophet. Do you know what I'm saying? So when it comes to the children of Israel and their claim to Palestine or that land of, right, it's a thing where in the Quran, if you read the first or Surah Al-Baqarah, that's the second, I guess. Well, it's the longest chapter in the book. It will tell you the history of Moses, his bloodline, how he saved the children of Israel, and how they went astray. Yeah.
How he saved the children of Israel
from Egypt.
From Egypt.
Yeah. So when it comes to them in the Quran, before the Muslims came along, they were the most beloved to God. So you see like Muslims, like we're like brothers and sisters in faith. Yeah. The Jews are our cousins because prior to us, they were the most beloved to God. When they went astray, we were brought forward. Like
when you say they went astray, like what do you mean by that?
So there's a couple stories, but long story short, are you familiar with the story of how Moses came?
No.
And set them free because they were slaves.
I'm aware of it, but I'm not like familiar of the proper story.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Nobody quote me on this.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
'cause
By the
I'm
way,
off the
this is
dome.
another thing. Do your own research.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Do your
research.
own research. This is not like a political
Factual,
like I'm just trying to understand some things. That's it.
Yeah.
So make sure you do your own research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get your history lessons from Chuckie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long story short, at the time, well, obviously Moses, he came from the children of Israel. His mom gave him up. She put him in a basket. He ended up flowing in front of the Pharaoh's palace. Yeah. So the mother, what was the Pharaoh's wife name? Not Khadijah.
I don't remember the name. Sorry.
I forgot her name, but she ended up finding him and raising him as one of their own. They knew that Moses was an Israelite, right?
Right.
But at that time, the Pharaoh had taken in the Israelites as slaves. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So later in his years, I believe it was in his like mid to late 20s, he ended up becoming a warrior, X, Y, and Z, fighting, and he found out that that was his bloodline. He came back. Moses is also one of the only prophet that had direct conversation with God. Like he directly spoke to God. Yeah. God brought him the message. I'm summary.
Yeah.
God brought him the message. He came back to the Pharaoh, told him, because back then they used to worship the Pharaoh as if he was God as well, by the way. So he came to him saying, "You're a liar. I'm gonna free the people." And then the things happened, like the attack of, what was it, bees or
Yeah,
wasps,
there was
or-
like the locust.
the locusts came in, took over the city, and then a lot of things happened up until
Part
one
of the
of
Red Sea.
Yeah, but that's a little later.
sorry.
So a lot of things happened up until the Pharaoh's youngest son passes away. So God takes away the child of the Pharaoh's youngest son, and then that's when they go into battle. Moses ends up freeing the Israelites. They end up reaching the sea. The sea parts. God parts it for them, and then they reach the other side, and the sea goes back, and the Pharaoh drowns. That's the main story of how the Jews were freed from Egypt, right?
Right.
And then
Geography
how?
as well.
So then what happened? So then what happened to them after that?
So
point?
they were, later down the line, they were tested basically with magic, right? So 2 angels came down and said, because in Moses' time, his miracle was magic. So in Jesus' time, it was like walking on water and healing. In the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's time, his miracle was literacy. That's why people say he couldn't read or write, but they were high in literacy in their time. That was their miracle. So with Moses, their miracle was magic. So what was commonly like a practice was illusions. So for entertainment purposes, people would play on illusions, X, Y, and Z, but they couldn't ever be tangible things. Do you see what I'm saying? So imagine I just put up a magic trick or whatever, and you see a snake, but you can't actually physically touch the snake, right? 2 angels came down to Moses and said, to test your people as believers, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a quote in the Quran that is repeated over and over again, and it says, well, do you not think that you will be tested like the ones that came before you? Do you know what I mean? Because the more you're tested, the more your faith is sustained. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So they ended up teaching him a magic trick where he had a wooden like stalk. He tapped it onto the ground and it turned into a serpent. But this serpent they could pick up and physically like touch and be tangible. Another one was where he put his hand under his arm. He'd take it out. It'd be a beam of light. What they did was they ended up learning the tricks and using them for bad, basically, like black magic, X, Y, and Z. Right. There's so much that goes into it. There was another test where they were asked to slaughter a sheep, and was it a sheep or a cow? And they kept asking for a specifics, like what type of cow. And Moses came back to them with like details over and over and over and over again for them to come and say, okay, we believe. Ultimately, when it comes to Palestine, why it's such a big thing for us Muslims, especially the mosque, right, Masjid al-Aqsa, which is where they were bombing and doing the most at the end of Ramadan, is because that's holy land. So Islamically we pray towards Mecca, right?
Yeah.
Prior to that was only after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when Moses' time where we pray is in Palestine towards that mosque.
Right.
So that was the point. And why is because there's a quote that says there isn't a palm, like a hand, on that land that the prophets, every single prophet hasn't walked towards. So if you go and you pray in that land, your sins are washed.
Okay.
As if
Even
you've gone
there's a masjid in Somalia, actually, ancient Somalia, that still faces Jerusalem.
Yeah.
To this day.
Because that was the original point of prayer sent down. And
so that was I
lot.
understand what I understand what you're saying here. What you're saying there,
Yeah.
But the part that I'm unclear of is who was there first.
So I think the long way of what we're trying to say is trying to say who was there first is kind of the wrong question to ask, only because we as Muslims identify, like, we'll say, like, we were once Christians, we were once Jewish people, like, we were all, like, from that same path.
Right.
So, and even if you look back 150 years ago, all three of those religions lived
together
in that area, right?
Yeah.
So
it's not about who was there first thing.
Yeah,
it's about it. So it's about not being able to be in a space in harmony together.
Yeah, and we need to actually understand the difference between, like, the Jewish people and Zionism.
Right, exactly.
Zionism is
I was going to get to that.
Yeah,
I was going to get to that.
It's not the same thing. So if we're talking about who was there first, it's people of faith, period.
Yeah.
Because prior to everything, before everything, you know how just because we know Islam or Christianity or Judaism how we know it now doesn't mean 1,000 years ago that's how the people knew it.
I'm just saying my truth here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying whether this was a right or wrong thing or whatever. I'm just saying something that I saw with my eyes here. When I went, one thing that I thought was really interesting is I went to this part. I cannot remember the name of this, like, road, but they were saying, like, this is where, like, Jesus had walked with the cross or whatnot. Yeah. And, like, when I was there, I actually saw, like, a lot of different, like, people that seemed to have had, like, from different faiths.
Yeah.
Like, I just saw, like, a lot of different types of attire that I hadn't seen before, but I could see that, like, it was a religious thing that was happening.
A holy land.
Yeah. And so to me, I thought that was really interesting because I'm in a space in that time when I was there anyway, maybe, you know, I don't know why it was like that at the time that I went there, but when I went there, I felt like I was seeing a lot of different things in one space, which did it to me feel in that moment kind of nice. Like, okay, like, I'm in my head, I'm kind of like, I didn't ask the questions, but I'm kind of like, who's these lot? Like, they were dressed in a certain, like, and who are these lot? And, like, so, but everyone was just kind of just doing their own thing, going to their own places and doing what they were doing. So that was, like, something that I had seen when I was there. So
do you know what? Sorry, I know you'll get to a point, but the fact that you even reacted like that shows how much we've been conditioned to think that Palestine is just strictly Muslim, where, if anything, maybe half, if not more, of the Palestinian population is Christian.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to talk about that. People look at Palestine and think Muslim, Arab, that's it, boom. So automatically, because of the history or whatever it may be, it's a Muslim versus Jewish situation where if you actually go over there, the amount of Christian population versus the Muslim population is, I think, more. Yeah. And people they completely overlook that to push that narrative in the media.
If you look at the borders of Israel, which is Israel today, or the state of Israel, tell you this is a Jewish land, right? So there's a narrative being told that, like, this land belongs to Jewish people, we have to reclaim it for Jewish people. Meanwhile,
do they say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
With chest.
So I don't know if we're going too far into this, but, like, there's even things like birthright, where, like, if you're a Jewish person born anywhere in the world, as long as your mother is Jewish, you have a right to go back to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Or to go back to Israel.
Yeah. Imagine being born and raised in Palestine and you're a Palestinian Muslim, and say, for example, imagine if I was born and raised in Palestine, and I came to London for uni, 3 years, boom, and I go back and my home is now not my home. It's been someone else lives there and it's a Jewish community. Whereas people who are Jewish people, like bloodline wise, whether they're here, whether they're in America, after retirement, they're guaranteed a house back in Palestine because of their right, basically their legal, the politics back there because of the fact that they claim that it's their holy land or they were the original people of that land, they are guaranteed a home. That's why the Zionists are just walking into Palestinian homes and saying, well, this is mine.
So, but this is the thing that I'm trying to understand as well, yeah, is because there's a couple of things that I had read, yeah, and it seemed like a for and against that, like Jewish people had themselves, yeah, and there was one side that was what you just said, that like they were like the originators of that land,
Yeah.
but then there's also people, Jewish people, that believe that that isn't the place that they're particularly supposed to be.
Jews,
yeah. So like, am I also right in understanding, that because this isn't, some people say, like, is this a religious war, that's happening right now? A lot of people say that it's not. They say that like it's more of an idea, like the idea of somebody saying that this is where people need to go, more than what it is actually is in the religion. So it's a person who's actually said, you know what, this is my interpretation of something, and essentially this is what Zionism is, right? Where someone has said, okay, cool, like, boom, from my understanding, this is what we need to do, and this is where we need to go because we are originally from here. So it's not so much a religious thing, it's an idea that somebody has in which a certain amount of number of people believe, right?
Yeah. I also want to like be careful of like, for me, like as a Somali person, I don't really have like ancestral ties to that piece of land, but as a Muslim, knowing that Jerusalem or Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third most holy site in Islam, I would like to go there and visit. And I know if I go there, I'll probably be harassed by Israeli police before I can get to that point, right? So there's, me as a Muslim, that's my perspective. But then on the other hand, there are Palestinians who, due to the stuff that happened in the 1940s or the 60s wars or up until then, like, are being displaced. So I know somebody from Toronto that I used to work with who is, his parents are born in Palestine, but he can't go back.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not for him. For him, it's not, I just want to go pray in a mosque. For him, it's like, this is where my grandparents live. This is where, it's like, you can't go back to Jamaica, basically.
Yeah. Imagine your parents, born and raised in Jamaica, lived there their whole life, came here, you were born and raised here, but because you're Jamaican, right? Even though, you know, I understand the history, but because of that,
I think we're originally Nigerian, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
okay, yeah. But you see what I'm saying? Imagine, but just because you are, and somebody else wants to claim that land, you can't go back, even though that's your whole bloodline.
Can I say this though? Would they say that it wasn't a thing of we've just come there to claim it? It's a thing of we've come there to take it back from what we thought it originally was from before. Because the reason why I say that, the reason why I say and I ask this is because if that is the case, remember, I'm just trying to make an understanding. That's all I'm doing. If that is the argument, then in some way for them, they may say that it's framed as though, you know what, like we've just turned up and we've just rolled up and just took man out. But for them, they may say that, nah, but hold on one second, like we've been there, we was just away, but we've come back again.
The problem is, and it's easy to say it's a problem and just throw your hands at it, but this is something that happened, let's say, thousands of years ago, right? I'm discussing today, like the point that she was trying to make about the Americans. Like, you can say, you know, I can say like, hey, I'm a Palestinian person. My grandparents have lived in this land for their whole life, and now they're getting their house taken away by somebody who's lived in America for the last 100 years, right? So that's like that difference. Like, you have a home in Brooklyn, New York. You're coming to Sheikh Jarrah and taking somebody's home who they've lived in that place for 50 years, only because you're like, I've claim ownership of this land from 1,000 years ago.
But would they say this though? No, would they say that an example of that would be more of, this is going to sound like a mad thing to say, and I hope that this doesn't sound insensitive and that you understand the metaphor in which I'm trying to use here. But would they say it's sort of more the equivalent of, if I believe, say I own a house, right, and I've like, I don't know, let's say I paid the mortgage for the house, or I own the house or whatever, and someone else comes and they live there for a long time, and whoever owns the house has died, but still in the will that this house still is in the line of the owner of the house. Yeah. But there's another set of people that are living there. Even though it may seem unfair that years down the line they've come in and said, yo, you got to bounce. But to them, they may say, but we own the house from before. Is that not more the equivalent of what they would say?
This is the thing. I think where the children of Israel originally were travelers.
Right.
They don't have land to claim. That's why they've always been in different places and parts of the world. And let's not forget how we see the world now and how it's parted now. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, this is...
Like, we were originally one big land and just ocean.
Yeah, of course.
Get it? And then over time, things split. So it's a thing where us coming to pinpoint Palestine, first of all, the only reason why Palestine was given to them was through the English. After the First World War, the English gave it over to them.
When was that? That was like
second, sorry.
It was the
Second World War,
World War.
Which was like in 1940 something.
48, yeah.
This is a question I've actually got to ask. One of you might be able to answer this, yeah? How comes England have got that authority? Like, how comes... No, wait.
No.
Do you know what? Hold on one second. Let me say this. How comes England's got a hand in everything?
Because they were the biggest empire.
Do you know what the maddest thing is? Because of the Ottoman Empire.
No, because they was the biggest empire at the time. So they had their most land everywhere.
But the thing is, this is maybe a whole different subject. But I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going?
You know
where I'm going? When you look at the map, England is little bit. And somehow, some people have managed to leave there on some scaremongering thing. Do you know, maybe what it was is, when they've gone wherever they've gone, people have obviously thought, they may not have seen the map. So they might have thought, yo, England's like the Russia. They must have thought, these men are on smoke.
Even the map, how we know it now, isn't accurate.
That's facts.
And that's now modern day time.
But how have they had, like, how have England had a role in this?
Fuck no.
Just to add to what you were saying, the Queen is on Canadian money to this day.
Yeah, I know.
Like, as a Canadian citizen, I'm a subject of the Queen. Makes no sense, but whatever. So, as a history student, somebody who has a degree in history, the thing I walked away from 4 years of school is the white man has just fucked everything. If you want to find the world's a problem in the world, just go back to colonialism, imperialism, and you'll find some white men behind it. So, in World War I, actually, World War I, the Germans and the British got into a fight. The British had the French on their side, the Americans. The Ottomans, who were Turkish but controlled most of the Middle East, including present-day Palestine or Israel, whatever you want to call it, they sided with the Germans. Right. Those are bad decisions they made. They sided with the Germans. Once the World War I ended and that side lost, Britain and all those other European nations, we're looking at the Middle East like we want that
piece of land.
And even if you go back before, hundreds of years before, Christopher Columbus, the reason why he decided to get on a boat and go to America is because he was trying to find a new way to avoid the Arabs. He was trying to get to India, right? And he was like, if I go through the land, the Arabs will tax the shit out of me and whatever I have.
So wait, did he stumbled across America?
Yeah,
he just
fluked it. He was lost.
He was lost.
The reason why it's called the West Indies is because the man thought he showed up in the west side of India.
Yeah.
That's mad.
So he literally thought, like, if he goes around the world, he'll end up in India or China.
I'm gonna play you a tune.
That's mad.
So Christopher Columbus is
Big
a
facts.
damn blasted liar.
Yeah. Period.
So
that's it.
So to get back
Don't
to what I was trying to
me,
say.
yeah. It's called Columbus, but yeah, sorry.
So the British were trying to avoid Arabs, or the Europeans trying to avoid Arabs for the longest time.
Right.
Right. So once the Ottoman Empire collapsed after World War I, the British, the French, they all started carving up parts of the Middle East, and that's where you kind of get some of these modern day nations. Actually, through decolonization or colonialism and decolonization, that's where you get a lot of the borders that we see today, right? So when you hear about neighboring countries fighting, it's because the white man was just like, and just put two people together in a spot, and they don't know like the histories or if these tribes like are with each other. So even like in Rwanda, you put these two tribes together, and post colonization, some fuckery happens because these are two people that have been warring for forever.
I watched Hotel Rwanda actually. That was where like what was it? The Belgians went there and separate people by their nose and their skin tone.
And they oppress one group of the other.
Yeah.
So they carve up most of the Middle East, and I think the English and the French split Palestine, right? Or they have like it's a protectorate state, right?
Yeah, that's
that's
what they used it as.
Okay, you see when that happened, when they did that, at this point it's just Palestine, right?
Yeah, it's not really Palestine. They just the British just claim it as like whatever they're gonna do with it. They don't.
But see when the British did that, but see when the British did that, was Palestine governed? Was there a government?
Yes and no. So,
and if there was a government, did they agree to that?
You don't agree to colonization, man. If somebody comes to your house, you don't just be
money's talks.
Yeah, but it's like what I'm trying to say is the British kind of came and imposed their will,
right?
Whatever they got to do, right? There was the Ottoman were functioning. The Ottoman like empire was out in Turkey. There was smaller like satellite states or governments that kind of controlled these like cities or these areas. So there was a system of politics and government that happened in these lands. It wasn't just an empty space with just random people farming. People had culture, people had money, people had politics. They had newspapers. They did things. We weren't just people in bushes. If that makes any sense. So putting a pause on that right there, there was something that happened in I believe it was in Paris or in France. It was called the Dreyfus Affair, where some madness happened to a Jewish person. I'm forgetting the exact details of the story, but there was a gentleman. I'm also forgetting his name. He was a Jewish man. He was a journalist. He said, it's clear that, these Europeans don't like us here. This is a Jewish man. He's saying they don't like us here. We need to go find somewhere to live. That's like Zionism in a nutshell. We need to find a safe space. Was
it one particular man that people look to that created this?
No, I have to find his name, but he just put the idea out there. He wasn't a doer. He just said this.
Oh, he just said
it. He's a journalist, you said, right?
Yeah.
So people were gonna see it. It's not like
okay.
And then there was
and obviously
people.
at those in those times,
that was the
like even up to recently, like even up to the 90s, journalism was like
the thing.
The thing you would would read that and that would be
you weren't listening to podcasts,
right.
But Jewish people were oppressed.
I'm not my man, but I know I do a podcast. I'm just here to learn.
I'm not my man.
I'm just here to art. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
But no, that was like how knowledge was transferred and news was brought up in the day. But what I'm trying to say is Jewish people were oppressed in Europe. Like Europeans. Yeah. Like Europeans were fucking over Jewish people in Europe. And can I swear on this? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. So they're fucking over Jewish people here, and they were fucking over other people across the world, people of color all over the world. So Europeans fucking people up everywhere in their backyard and away. So once World War II popped off and things ended and we saw the effects of the Holocaust. Also, mind you, there were Jewish refugees during the Nazis' time and during the World War II that were trying to leave Germany. They came to England. England's like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. They came to America. America's like, get the fuck out of here. They went to Canada. Canada's like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Nobody wanted Jewish people,
Nobody wanted them. That's the thing.
And that is unfortunate. It's very tragic that these people had to go back to Germany and were essentially slaughtered.
Yeah, because that was going to say. So in that in that moment of people not wanting them, were they treated like in a mad way on top of that too? So when they went there, was it like or were they just pushed away like, you just gotta leave? Honestly, essentially, that kind of something like that happened, but they ended up going back to Germany. The fact is, they went to Germany and ended up getting slaughtered.
Both didn't even land on Canadian waters.
That's the fact. The fact that they went there.
And so in the middle of this early conversation of Zionism, Palestine was one of the things, but they considered Argentina, they considered Uganda. So this wasn't really a let's go back to our ancestral homeland. It was a colonization project, right? They were like, how can we as European Jewish people go take a land to be safe from these other people, right?
Yeah.
And then once World War II happened, Hitler gets defeated, and the United Nations is created after World War II to ensure that another world war never happens. They kind of did their job. But one of the first decisions they did, and this is a quote, they said, how do we solve this Jewish problem? So they were looked at as like a problem in the world. And, you know, a combination of guilt and trying to get them away from you know, Europe, they were like, oh, Palestine's over there. Just go over there. And there's also conversations like, this is also our holy land, makes sense and convenient.
And because Palestine was known for being a land where... because it was known for being a land where people of all faith could just live in harmony. It was easy for them to put them there. Do you see what I'm saying? So this whole claim to Holy Land and stuff is very recent, maybe in the past 30, 40, 50 years. Like, that was not the original reason for them to be placed there.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So the argument...
Is that why some of them actually say that, yeah, like, what, this place wasn't even supposed to... Because that's another thing. I was watching it and I'm like... That's one thing I wanted to do. One thing I wanted to do was, when I was doing research, I wanted to find my research in amongst them and their own arguments. Purely because I feel that for them, if you've got a for and against within their own community, then it takes away that uncomfortable thing of, you know, something sounding anti-Semitic or whatever it is, because that like, that's one thing that I don't want to like be seen or come across as that.
But that's
then
why
at the same
separate
time,
Zionism from Orthodox Judaism,
right.
because it's not the same.
Criticizing Zionism or the state of Israel isn't anti-Semitism.
Yeah,
right.
Of course it's not.
Because
so do you feel that it gets weaponized sometimes though?
Yeah, that's what happened with Dua Lipa, Bella Hadid, Gigi Hadid. Like in the New York Times, there was a full page ad that came out that said they criticized Israel and they're looking to, you know, kill all the Jews or whatever. Like,
bearing in mind that, well, like the Hadids are half Palestinian anyways.
Yeah,
like, their dad's Palestinian, so that doesn't make sense.
Like anti-Semitism, what Wiley did like a few months ago, that's anti-Semitism.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Definitely.
Criticizing the state of Israel for their policies and their laws isn't. For me to call the Israeli government an apartheid state isn't anti-Semitism, because if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. You're moving like South Africa in the 80s, right? Like, there's Palestinians who live in the state of Israel around those borders who don't have the same rights as Israeli Jewish people. I don't know if you heard the news where like people talk about Israel like being like one of the most COVID vaccines in the world, like the most like doses administered, but they're not giving it to Palestinian people. They're only giving it to Jewish people.
So when all the vaccines were first dished out, it was given to Israel, but where the border was, the Palestinians didn't get anything.
Right.
And it's just stuff like that. It's like oh.
Like, okay, can I ask this? Yeah. So, from what I was reading, that space was split. It was divided, right? So then on one side you've got like Gaza, then you've got Israel, yeah, and then on this side you've got like what would you call that? Palestine? Oh, the West Bank, yeah. And so there's like a line there where you have the mosque that's there, right?
Yeah.
So what's it called?
Al-Aqsa.
Al-Aqsa. That's let me help me. Al-Aqsa.
Yeah.
Al-Aqsa.
Yeah.
Okay. When it was divided in that way, was everyone okay with that? So when you had that, when it was like, okay, cool, you can have this and this, and then we'll have this. Originally, to begin with, was everyone okay with that? And did the problems come when they had felt like over time they were taking more and more and more, or was there a problem from the beginning of this? Yeah,
it wasn't like
you take this
things.
Bit, this bit.
Things didn't just. It wasn't like rosy as soon as like Europeans came. Right. When I say Europeans, I mean the European Jewish people after World War II. So there was a war.
Was there a lot of them were from Hungary, right? Or no?
Yeah, Hungary, Germany, right. Like a lot of these places, Poland.
Okay.
So there was a war. A lot of the Arab nations around, so like Jordan, like all those countries, right. Egypt, like they joined this war against Israel.
Yeah.
things happened. The Arabs lost this war,
Yeah.
and Israel ended up occupying a lot of these states. When I say occupy, do you understand what the concept of occupation
of
is?
course.
So it's like
Yeah.
these military forces just stay here because they don't know when this war will end.
Yeah, so they're just chilling.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's been
that
like
reminds
for
me
60
of
years.
when I DJ'd in Lebanon years ago, yeah. And like one of the, sorry to interrupt you.
No worries.
Okay, hold your thought, yeah. One of the most interesting things I saw, yeah, when I turned up at the booking, there was like a tank on this side and then the next tank on that side. And the promoter said to me, yeah. I was like, why is there still tanks and that out here like that?
Yeah.
And he said to me, yeah, like at any moment things will just pop off. So they're just chilling.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? So every day you're just out here with a big like Ras Clark
Big
tank
bazooka.
barrel in your nose,
Yeah,
not
man.
knowing when something's gonna lick off.
Like, how traumatic is that? Like,
That's trauma.
yeah. So, question for you were those Lebanese forces?
I believe so. Yeah,
Oh, so-
I believe so.
The thing with this is like
They're
in
not.
in the West Bank, they're not Palestinian military. It's Israeli military, right? So you're leaving your house and you're seeing Jewish people with guns, or Israeli people with just guns,
Kids and,
asking you where you're going. Can you leave? You can't even go from town to town, right? So going back to the other point, there was occupation, and slowly, Israel, the government, started annexing these communities, or more. They're taking more and more, like you're saying, of these places. And
define annexing for the people.
so annexation is basically just saying
Yeah, she's podding. Yeah.
annexation is basically you just go in there and you'd be like, yep, this part is now mine. So America annexed Texas from Mexico and so much more other places.
Right.
You know, them taking Hawaii, whatever. So I'm kind of losing my train of thought.
Sorry.
Oh, what I was going to say is, so, you know, during Donald Trump time, 4 years ago, the Israeli government got a little more beholden because Trump was supportive of Israel. So what there was like a conversation that happened where, I'm forgetting the exact location in Palestine, I'm forgetting the name, but the Israeli government was like, yeah, we're taking these hills, we're going to bulldoze these houses and kick the Palestinians living in there, and we're going to move in Israeli settlers. And that's the same conversation that happened a month ago, and that's where everything started again.
So they
On
were
top of that-
essentially by kicking them out, were they making them like refugees?
Yeah.
Essentially, okay.
Yeah. And then also during the last presidency in the U.S., Trump moved. So basically, the whole world is like playing this tightrope with like Palestine and Israel, to the point where most countries, actually every country, puts their embassy in Jerusalem because it's still the neutral space, even though even though Israeli troops like control it, that's still seen as a neutral space.
What do you mean?
So Jerusalem is technically supposed to be shared across both parties,
Okay.
right? So a lot of countries will have their embassies in Jerusalem because if they move to Tel Aviv, which is an Israeli city, it looks like you're picking a side. Does that make sense?
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you. You know, in Algeria, I'm Algerian, so North African.
Right.
If they find a stamp of Israel, they revoke your nationality.
Yeah, they're taking
Your whole nationality.
Yeah. So if
Blouse and skirt.
if I went to Tel Aviv, for example, and they stamped it, and you know my whole bloodline is Algerian, and I tried to go back home, they would revoke my nationality. Like,
there's a lot of
That's
there's a lot of
outrageous.
passports I'll say this is
Straight
not
up.
valid in Israel, just for that.
Yeah.
But those are more like you won't see that on an American passport, you won't see it on a British passport, but you'll see it on like a Pakistani passport, right? There's countries that will pick a side, and usually they'll pick with the Palestinians. But what Trump did was he moved the American embassy to Tel Aviv to signal we're on that side,
Right.
So that became like a thing. So
So you made a statement.
yeah. So I say all this to say is the last 4 years of U.S. policy has essentially like slowly like added like a little juice to the Israeli government,
Right.
because now they're
It's
like,
gassed them.
yeah, they're like, yo,
So-
you gassed me with my head big.
Okay, I was going to ask a different question, yeah, but as you just mentioned the government, yeah, at what point was the Israeli government established?
The moment.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Jump.
The
Yeah.
jump of when? From what?
From
night? From
1948.
Yeah.
oh, from
So,
that moment, and
yeah.
prior to that, there wasn't really a government like that. It was
They had a government, but what we need to understand, for example, Palestine doesn't have an army. They don't have military.
Yeah.
So they were a land that had governing in terms of like the basic rights and X, Y, and Z and
Right.
courts and whatnot. But they never necessarily needed to be the type of land that had armies and had military and stuff like
So
that.
can I stop you? Can I stop you and say this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that one of the reasons why you feel like you could have been a target? Because if it's not governed in a certain way, does it not make you vulnerable?
Yes and no. So everything she said was right, but also you're functioning, you're controlling your borders in a certain way. Your politics is running, you're governing in a certain way. However, there's still that looming thing on top of you, which is the white man, the British people, right? So everything you do is to an extent the British people still own everything in this land, right? So if the British people come and say,
yo, we need that,
we're doing that, right?
Which is
it's the same
so
thing.
they are ultimately
they're your landlords.
So yeah, okay. So England essentially was on the most fuckery, really.
Yeah.
And the French. You can't forget about the French.
Especially
the French.
Okay. So but that almost gets pushed to the side when we just look at what is happening now, because essentially we're seeing two types of people essentially at war with each other.
Think of it
but
as
essentially it was somebody that came in on a vibe of, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna whatever.
Trying to drop these people here and let them.
Yeah, and then okay.
But that's what it is though. Imagine like England was the key to the door.
Yeah.
And then they said, run wild. So this is the thing, because we love to shift accountability. Yeah. Just because England and France did what they did and they took, okay, you're now going here X, Y, and Z.
I know where
Do
you're
you
going.
get it? But what's happening right now, as in what happened 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Like, okay, if England and France were the key, did England and France, even
doing
though
anything.
less, like, in my opinion anyways, I feel like they knew how it would play out.
Right.
Because of the type of government that they have there, because of how it's played out. It's very calculated, in my opinion. Like, if you see the timeline and you see how everything's happened, it's not coincidental, it's not by chance.
Right.
So when you it's like giving a child, it's like giving a child a bar of chocolate and then saying the rest of the packet is over there, but you're gonna tell them, oh, knowing that, okay, cool, they're actually gonna go for the whole cupboard of sweets. Do you see what I'm saying? That was really shit. But do you know what I mean? Like, they opened the door and they've let them now go do their thing. So let's not shift accountability and come and on this vibe of, okay, cool, well, essentially it was all the English and because really and truly, what the Zionists are doing, Orthodox Jews are out here protesting, against what's happening in Israel. Do you know what I mean? Because they know their truth, they know their history. So it's a thing, like, let's not do that.
And a point I want to make is,
I'm with you. I hear you.
Yeah.
The biggest enabler and supporter of the state of Israel is the U.S., right?
Right.
And the U.S. was one of the founding countries of the United Nations, and they have a permanent seat at the Security Council. Security Council is basically, I think 4 or 5 nations have a permanent seat, and it's like Britain, America, yada yada yada, and then they have a rotating cast every couple of years where they get voted in. Canada tried to campaign to get voted in; they didn't win this last time. But basically, what the U.S. does is, anytime the rest of the UN puts forth a motion to condemn Israel or to do something about the war crimes that are happening, America's like, nah, stop. We're not having this conversation.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to, by being a permanent member of the Security Council, to basically stop conversations point blank.
Which in itself isn't just.
Yeah.
How can you have 3, 4, 5 countries come and say and do as they please with the rest of the world?
Yeah.
Make sense.
And the larger point I'm also trying to make is, if this problem was created by the British, the French, the Americans, the UN, it's up to these people to also find solutions to fix it. But America's not letting that happen, right? And what America basically does is it diverts billions of dollars to Israel for Israel to buy back American guns and weapons and all that stuff. So America is essentially funding the state of Israel.
What is Hamas?
So there's Gaza and there's the West Bank, right? You understand the difference. Like you were saying, there's Gaza that borders, that's on the water. And to the south of it is Egypt. People in Gaza cannot leave Gaza. Gaza is a strip of land. It's not even as small than London. And it's the most densely populated place in the world. There's people living on top of people.
Is it boarded up?
So they can't leave. They can't leave into Israel through the water or through the land.
So they can't get from
one place to another.
to the West Bank.
No.
basically.
no.
So they can't go through Israel. They can't. Their waters are controlled. Like Israel has navy around it, and then to the south, Egypt is like, "No, you're not coming here." So people in Gaza are literally in a prison.
Would Zionists say, "Yeah, that is what's happening," or would they have an argument to say, "No, they can actually leave, or they can actually do this, or they like what would they?" I know it's hard for you to do this, but I have to ask, innit?
There was
like, what do you think that they would say to that?
It's not even a think. There was a documentary that was released maybe 10-ish, very old, like, well, not very old, but 10 to 15 years ago. And it was of a British journalist, and he went over to, I believe it was Tel Aviv, I don't know. And he went into the houses and he interviewed the kids. And he said to the kids, "Oh, what do you think of what's going on between where you're raised and the Palestinian kids and X, Y, and Z?" And they literally, the explanations and the answers that you hear actually made me almost cry, because imagine hearing a kid maybe under the age of 10 saying that, well, it's either them or it's us, so it has to be them, or families saying at the end of on every Friday, or because they used to bomb them weekly. Like, this isn't nothing new. Like, all the bombings and the attacks have been happening for over like 80 years, where they would say us as families, they'd go up to the border and they'd sit and they'd barbecue and they'd watch the bombs as if they were fireworks. Yeah. And it was like they were almost conditioned. These are kids under the age of 10. Like, do you know what I mean?
There's a saying in Gaza where, as a Muslim, you pray 5 times a day, right? So somebody said, you do all your daily prayers, but there's also a sixth prayer every day in Gaza, which is the one you do for funerals. Like, that's how often people are dying there. So Hamas basically,
go back to that.
Gaza is locked. People are in a prison. They can't leave, right? There's water, there's land, and there's water, there's Israel, and there's Egypt. Egypt says no, Israel says no. And on the water, Israelis have their boats there.
And by the way, Egypt says no, it's because they signed a treaty with Israel that's basically agreed to not let them in. Yeah, basically.
And there's even like fishing boats can only go like 50 meters or 50 yards. So there's this, people can't leave, and you're just locked in this, and you're living people on top of people. You think London's tight? Gaza's tighter. And then there's the West Bank, which is slightly more spacious, but it's still, you're living under occupation. So in the West Bank, there's the Palestinian Authority, which is a democratically elected representation. That's their political party, whatever. And they have, I don't want to say they have a seat at the table because that implies it's equal, but they can have diplomatic conversations with the state of Israel.
Gaza, some type of dialogue.
Yeah, Gaza elected Hamas, which is more on that smoke. Like, they're like, we're ready for war if you guys need us. And Israel will not have conversations with Gaza. Israel won't have conversations with Hamas. The entire Western nations look at Hamas as like a terrorist group, but that's just phrasing. Like, if I democratically elected somebody to represent me and they go to war, like if Britain goes to war, you won't call Britain a terrorist group, right?
Or even if I bomb your house and you bomb my house back as defense, you're not a terrorist. You're defending yourself. Yeah. And even with that, Palestine owns nothing. Yeah. They don't own military. They don't own weapons. Nothing. So the one time they grasp something and they actually defend themselves, boom, terrorism.
Yeah. So Hamas doesn't have a military. They don't have tanks. They don't have. What they're shooting back is basically more dangerous fireworks. Yeah. Right. And Israel has this thing called the Iron Dome that was basically funded by America, and it's not a physical dome, but it's an anti-missile like system. So missiles get fired from Gaza, Israel could slap that down, and they usually just land in like empty fields. And in this specific situation, after the escalations that was happening in the West Bank, so away from Gaza, in the West Bank, that's where people were getting evicted. I don't want to say eviction, but being purposely displaced by the Israeli government, where the Israeli government was raiding Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan while people were breaking their fasts.
In the last 10 days.
No. Yeah, in the last 10 days of Ramadan, which is the 10 most holy days of the year, Hamas all the way in Gaza was like, that's fucked up. Like, we got to go ride for our people, right? Yeah. So they essentially gave an ultimatum to to Israel to say, yo, relax, or we're gonna start shooting these rockets. But these rockets don't really do anything. But that's their only form of defense. Once Israel ignored that, they started shooting their rockets, and then Israel's like, yeah, we're flying the planes.
That was the opportunity to like full
and
force.
Israel has like a bank of targets that they always say like,
hit.
you know, we want to hit these places. We're just looking for an excuse to do this. And in this last escalation of violence, Israel knocked down the biggest building in Gaza, which is like a residential block. And they always say Hamas was in there. They knocked down Al Jazeera's media
like,
building where journalists were in.
Yeah.
Like they'll text you and be like, hey, we're coming, get out. And like there's a video of a guy outside on the phone with Israeli like military saying, can we go back get our laptops? This is a journalist saying, can we get our stuff? And they're like, no, we're knocking this down right now. So Hamas will shoot these rockets that will end up in fields, and Israel will just level buildings. And if you look at the death toll, I don't think anybody who dies is a tragedy. Like in Islam, we believe that one person who dies is like you almost killed all of humanity. That's how bad that sin is. So what I'm saying is anybody who dies is terrible. But if you look at the death toll, it's not proportionate. I think about 250 people died. Palestinian people have died since these last few weeks. And I think about 20-30 Israelis have died since then.
And the thing is, it's like, even as somebody that might be ignorant to the situation or doesn't actually understand what's happening, if you just, on a human level, I saw a video of a baby, like maybe max 1-2 years of age, and he was shot, or the baby was shot with a rubber bullet.
Yeah, I saw that
Stuff
today.
like that, kids being like shot by big men with guns in front of like people, kids watching their parents, their dads being shot down. Like, these are kids. Do you know what I mean? And then when they flip it and you see, you know, there's a video of a girl and she was crying because she was like, what do you want me to do? I'm only 10 years old. Like, I wanted to be a doctor so I can help my people, but I can't do that. I don't know what to do. And it's just stuff like that, like from a human level, even if you're not a person of knowledge or X, Y, and Z, seeing that should do something to you.
Yeah, but I think, do you know what the thing is though? It does, but there's obviously there's a lot of ignorant people out there, yeah. And I use ignorant not in like a rude term, but there's so much going on. It's like sometimes you go on Instagram and stuff and you see things and stuff, but you don't necessarily know the context. You can humanize it and you can say, oh, do you know what? Like, that's sad. But I don't know what the story is, and then so for some people they just it scares them into thinking, oh shit, like, well, do you know what it's like? Yeah. It's like, and I'm all for people like looking at stuff and, you know, looking at the human nature of it, yeah. But I think the one thing that is kind of tricky at times is when you don't really know anything, and then you just see people just say, like, you see people pick a side. This is what happens on Instagram, yeah. People pick a side and then they just jump to that side, but they're not jumping to the side because they think, oh, hold on 1 second, this whole situation is a complete monstrosity. It's the same thing with like what was going on with the black square. Yo, enough people weren't posting the black square because they thought, yo, it was like, you know what? I need to be seen to be doing something.
No, I hear you, but let me say something, right? Me personally, in the world that we live in now, with the access that we have to now, I don't believe in just ignorance. I believe in selective ignorance. So if you can go and you can see it and you just scroll past or you just repost it because you see everybody's reposting it and X, Y, and Z, that's selective ignorance. We have access to everything. You can pull up the whole history. Do you know what I mean? You can go and, like, if it's a thing where you genuinely want to learn, you'll learn.
Yeah. But you know what? But my point being is that the reality of it is that not everyone
cares.
Not everyone cares.
Yeah.
And not everyone wants to, like, do you know what? Caring is a harsh way to say it, but yeah, in some way it is that. It is that. But do you know what it is? It's like sometimes, imagine, yeah, and I am a person who this is why I'm having this conversation. So like when I see some shit or whatever, I'm trying to make an understanding of it or whatever. My brain intake isn't always that great, but I still try. But you know what the thing is that like for some people, whether we see this as right or wrong or whatnot, it's like every day, you could go online and then you will see like a mad injustice of something that's going on somewhere.
Yeah.
And as harsh as it sounds, it's like some people just do not have the time to just
Or-
pull
or
up
even the
Google
capacity
and
to,
read,
like,
and
take it
or go on. Like even when I'm doing research on this, this isn't a half an hour thing for me. I'm going on and I'm watching an hour of. I'm trying to like, watch the for and against. I'm trying to like okay, let me what is happening over here. Like this is
But
so
that's people and their
in my mind
lives,
I'm
yeah.
like this is so mad in my head. This is so mad. I have to hear what you have to say about this. So I'm trying to find what is it that you have to say about this, so I can now try and make some type of and I've got like a friend. I say friend loosely, but someone that I speak to who's a Jewish guy, and we were having a conversation on the pod. Yeah. And like he hit me and he was like, yo, you know what, like I really respect the pod and stuff like that, but I don't want you to have like a one-sided conversation. It would really upset me if this, that and whatever. And I said, listen, bro, like he's out there. He's out there. And I said, listen, I fully hear you. Show me, like tell me from your perspective so that I can hear it. I may not agree with it still.
Yeah, but you'll listen.
But I want to listen. I want to learn. And if you come here, I can sit down and I can have a conversation with you. And you know what? Next time, if I'm sitting down and I'm having a conversation, I'm going to be honest with you and with him or with whoever. Like, I would ideally like for someone on both sides to come and sit down and say in a respectful way and have some type of conversation. But I say all of that to say this is that, like, I don't say this as like I'm not, the most righteous person ever. But the reality is not everyone is as inquisitive as I am. Some people are just going to see some shit. But selective ignorance is a real thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that will see some shit and they will choose to not want to know about it.
Yeah.
Because they feel like, I got bills to pay. And
They're very soaked up in their own lives.
Yeah.
But I just think everybody at one point in their life will have a moment of, okay, but why?
Yeah.
We all go through things, and we all like. Sometimes it gets too much. When the BLM stuff was happening, that was posted every day on every social media platform for ages. And waking up to that every day can be a lot, especially for someone that might struggle with mental health or like I have anxiety. So when I see a lot of that all the time, so I just shut my phone off because it's too much for me. First thing in the morning. Same with Palestine. Like I grew up seeing this. Do you know what I mean? Like my parents were protesting in their day, let alone us now seeing it and X, Y, and Z. So it's not a thing of everybody has their days of like, maybe not today, or I want to focus on just what I'm doing today or life or whatever. But it's a matter of if you keep doing that, that's where the selective ignorance comes in.
No, I hear you.
But also James Baldwin, I'm probably butchering this quote, but James Baldwin said something along the lines of like, to be black and aware is to be in a constant state of rage at all times.
Say that again.
To be black and aware is to be in a constant state of rage. Because everything you just keep getting angry, and I think that can apply to so many different things. Yeah. And I think it's honestly, I don't want to say it's a blessing. It's a privilege to wake up and not have to think about these things.
That is a privilege.
You know, so, and like you said, like it's taxing. Like I work in marketing, I work in advertising, and you've seen how many brands came out last summer about like Black Lives Matter. Imagine the conversation I had to have at work. I come to work, I'm like, I don't care about you guys. I need to run these ads. I'm gonna go home. But now I have to be the second black person in the entire company has to talk about these things for all these things. It's taxing, it's tiring. But it's a fight that you have to have. And then the second thing I was gonna say is being on social media, and if you're somebody with influence, you'll get bullied into saying something. People will be like, yo, Chuckie, how come you didn't say anything? How come you didn't say anything? And it happened to Rihanna. I know, and then she came out and said she said something like along the lines of like, it sucks that, two kids on both sides are dying. It's like, no, like yes, kids are dying. It sucks. But there's hundreds of kids that are dying on one side. So, and what you're saying as well, it makes sense that like, you're seeing these things and you have to stop, take a minute, do your research, learn, and then make an informed decision. But at the same time, there are these images that you see and these headlines that you see that are obviously like, you're as a human, you're like, this is terrible. Like I see the imbalance in this. You're going to react and say, free Palestine, #free Palestine. That's the bare minimum you can do. And the amount of celebrities that tweeted that and just get a wave of like I don't want to say negative comments because of that. It's like, I'm a human. I saw somebody.
I think I might get some, but I'm asking some questions, and I'm just trying to play. I'm just trying to understand from both sides. But that's funny as well, yeah, because you know Mo the comedian, yeah, you know, like he put out, you know, he's doing something in the O2.
Yeah.
It's like the Black British takeover.
Okay.
Yeah? And something happened that made me realize how gone Mo is. Like Mo's gone.
Yeah.
Like Mo the comedian's gone. Do you know why?
He had a Netflix special.
Do you know why?
I saw it in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know why? Because so much of the people that feel like they love Mo recently, knowing that Mo's been out here. It's not a new Don.
Yeah,
like he's been out here from a long time ago. Yeah,
He's new to me.
Huh?
He's new to me.
Yeah, he's new to you. Yeah. I hear you still. But he's been on the ground for years, and like, you know, for me, seeing Mo being successful in the way that he is important to me, because to me that he speaks to like perseverance, because he went from he was on a super grind. Now it just looks like it's an overnight thing, whatever. But anyway, so he's so gone that like a lot of the new fans, when they see I'm at the O2, I'm doing the Black British takeover, bare people are like, what? That's racist. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Black what? Black what? They can't believe it. So when like he was reposting it, yeah, and when he was reposting, I was thinking, you know, like you could watch it, you could read it and be, oh, these lot are so stupid. But in my head, I'm like, rah, Mo's gone. Like imagine, like he's hit a whole new, he's hit a whole new target audience here. That I've just seen him on the flipping thing on ITV where people have got a costume on and dancing. You got to work out who the fucking singer is, and he's on the panel and that, and they think, oh, he's a funny guy. Yeah. So now that he's come out and he's doing something, he's on a give back kind of thing. This side, they just can't even fucking. Fathom. They could just not even fathom what the hell is going on.
It's lit.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought now because I was actually tying that to something, but you know, maybe we'll come back to me in a bit.
Like the reactions of people X, Y, and Z.
Being bullied, saying something, Rihanna.
Yeah, it was like I can't remember. It will come to me in a bit, maybe. And I'm gonna wrap this up very soon. But there's a couple of things I'm gonna mention. Yeah. What is the second what is it?
Intifada?
The second Intifada. What is that? What was that?
So Intifada just means uprising.
Right.
So I'm gonna get canceled for this one. I'm trying to remember because I'm going blank, but I think the first.
If you don't know it, then don't say.
It's basically the major like uprisings from Palestinians. I believe the first one was in the 40s, and then the second one was sometime after that. But Intifada just means uprising.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about what BDS is? BDS, apartheid state.
Say that again.
BDS.
What is that?
So, kind of going back to South Africa, in the 80s when South Africa was like an apartheid state, to the late 90s, you know, Nelson Mandela, we as a world community recognized what was happening in South Africa as fucked up. And you guys know South Africa, like there are certain laws set for black people, white people, and brown people. Or you guys say Asians here. I'm still learning. So
that's funny.
It's so
that
confusing.
Itself, the way you had to clarify.
It's so confusing, but yeah, I'm learning, guys. So what? And it started from like a grassroots level where people were like, if any business has an affiliation with South Africa, we will boycott, we'll divest, and we hope our government sanction them. Me personally, it's a fuck Elon Musk thing because he's a white South African. And, you know, came up in that time. His family had some money. So it sounds like you're a part of the apartheid state. Get your money from there. So give your money back to South Africa. That's kind of the thing that what people were doing with South Africa. And if you compare that to Israel, there are a certain set of laws for Israelis, Jewish people, and there's a certain set of laws for Palestinians, right? That in itself is an apartheid state. Like there's places you can and cannot live. There's places you can't. You're not mobile. You can't work certain jobs. Yeah. You can't. You know, your vote doesn't work. So, and then the propaganda will tell you that Israel is the most democratic state in that part of the world, but for whom, right? Yeah. It's only for one side. So what people are saying is, that same energy that we had for South Africa back in the day we should be basically bullying Israel into treating Palestinians with some sort of decency, respect. In Gaza, kind of going back to Gaza, a report came out that Israel was counting the calories of food that will go in to Gaza so they can essentially not make it look like they're, malnourishing them, but like starve them out.
Yeah.
Like that's the type of shit that's happening to these people.
Yeah.
So when people say BDS, it's if you're like Puma, I don't know if somebody's wearing Puma here, but Puma sponsors the Israeli Football Association. That's like the national like governing body of soccer or football. People are like, take that out. Or there's other brands, I think like SodaStream or some other companies that are Israeli that people are saying we're not shopping from them. And that's like how you essentially make a difference with your dollar. Like if you're not going to be doing the social media thing, you can make a difference here. And that's essentially what BDS is.
And just quickly going back to South Africa, Nelson Mandela, one of the biggest quotes that people overlook is that when Nelson Mandela came out of prison, he said, the South African people will never be free until the Palestinians are free.
Yeah.
Recognizing what's going on. So the fact that the world had so much energy for like South Africa and we got the result for them, and it's not being translated where it's not even just happened in the same way, but it's above and beyond. Do you know what I mean? It's gone past that.
Some people would say that even though they've got a result, they haven't really.
They haven't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because it's like it's still over there. It's still mad.
Yeah.
Like,
I hear it.
You can say Nelson Mandela, but Malcolm X said the same thing.
Exactly. Malcolm X said the
Martin
same
was on
thing.
that thing. The Black Panther Party was on that.
Exactly.
Patrice on the moment. Like so many like, and there was a conversation that was happening on Twitter or Instagram that was very unfortunate. That was people of Arab descent saying, we had all this energy for Black Lives Matter last summer. Where is that in return? And it puts me in a very bad situation because I'm a Muslim and I'm also Black. So it basically just erases me, and you just say that I don't exist. But like I have energy for Black people, and I have energy for people of my faith too. So like I'm here for this fight, But also there's a documented history of Black leaders rising up and saying, no, like what's happening here in America is fucked up for us or in Africa. But also we recognize what's happening over there is very similar. And the whole world will never be free until all oppressed people are free.
Yeah, and also let's not disregard Afro-Palestinians. Like Palestine isn't just olived people. Do you know what I mean? Like again, there are Black Palestinian people, they're Afro-Palestinians, and they're native to that land. Yeah. So for us to completely think that Palestine is just a certain look of people is completely wrong. Yeah. And I think when it comes, if we're gonna do the BLM stuff, like personally, I made a tweet about 2 weeks ago, and I said, if you can march for Black Lives Matter, if you can march for women's rights, if you can march for LGBTQ rights, you should be marching for Palestine, because that's even more of a reason for us to stand up. Do you know what I mean? Because Palestine isn't just one look, one situation, one thing. It's everything incorporated that we separately march for and have that injustice for. Do you know what I mean?
And also her saying, there's Afro-Palestinians, there's also Black Jewish people in this world. There's Jewish people of Ethiopian descent that live in Palestine. Right. And again, another report came out a few years ago where Israel admitted to, sterilizing the women, like Ethiopian women who are Jewish people, just because they're trying to make this ethnically, Jewish people look a certain way.
Yeah, it's ethnic cleansing.
It's terrible, and you can kind of see some of the insidious natures of like how this government operates, and that's no disrespect to. And I just want to, if we're about to wrap it up, I don't want to say Jewish people because bro, I'm wearing a Raptors OVO shirt. Like Drake is a Jewish person, So like
Drake's listen. I need Drake on it anyway. Yeah. What is it? End of the year. What is it, Callum? What are you saying?
I feel like
end of the year-ish. Yeah, November.
Wow, you lot have it like that, yeah.
Maybe I'm saying maybe January.
It's a Toronto takeover. Started with me.
Yeah. Next year, February, Drake will be on the couch.
Next time he's at the 03.
So I guess in a nutshell, Okay, what's the solution? From your perspective, like what do you feel like the solution is?
Do you want to go?
Honestly.
Yeah. So if you were to ask a Zionist, it's Israel is a Jewish homeland, point blank. We want everybody out, unless you're Jewish.
Would they say that they want? Would they say
they're pushing everyone?
They want everyone out, or would they say, you know what, we want the majority, but we still want to share this with you?
The majority is already Jewish. but also
Yeah.
Would
your
they say
actions.
that they want to share this? I'm down for sharing this,
Yeah.
as long as you're not on smoke.
I never heard that, so I can't really answer for that.
And we
However,
can't really come and say
Yeah.
they would say this or
Would
because
because you wouldn't know.
we're not like we can't come and do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
but
we
what
can't
I
come
could
and do
say
that.
is their actions
I don't know if that
are
makes sense.
saying that they want everybody out because they're going into
They're
Palestinian
evicting
neighbors
people and they're just kicking
them
people out of the.
Also,
So
I seen this interview with sorry to cut you off, but I seen this interview with somebody who's from Sheikh Jarrah whose family was getting removed, and he said an eviction implies that this is a legal matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not a
facts.
legal matter. So saying eviction is like me not paying rent to my landlord kicking me out.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not the
yeah,
same
facts.
thing. But there is a two-state solution that's proposed that's been on the table forever, where we cut it in half. One side goes to one side goes to the other. But Israel is not trying to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So
Well,
The reason why I asked that question about if that's something that they would say is because just when I was like doing a little research or whatever, I had heard someone say that they had said, or someone had like in 1936, 1947, and in the 2000s, it was said that like Palestinians were offered their own state, but they didn't want that.
they
Is
were
that proper-
offered
is-
their own state outside of Palestine.
yeah,
Okay.
Why would you move me out my own land?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, and also from a faith perspective, it's already written what's gonna happen. So y'all look into that. Y'all look into that. But
could I? Oh, sorry.
Cool.
There's
Are
so
you
many-
gonna tell me what you feel like a solution is, or is that how you're ending
it's
it?
not even how I feel like a solution is, like, because no matter how politically forward or politically out there or the world is pushing this situation to be, they're working off scriptures.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So then does that not make this a religious thing when it's not?
It makes they're taking advantage of religious scripture and allowing their political power to
Got you.
dictate it. Do you
Got
see what
you.
I'm saying?
Got you.
So from a matter of like, whether any Abrahamic faith would say the same thing, right? If you look at the early scriptures, and it's just
correct me if I'm wrong, but
go on.
in Judaism, there's a belief that there's a second coming, right?
Yeah.
In Christianity comes, or there's going to be a final like messenger. Christianity came along, and the Jews were like, "It's not Jesus. You guys are God's mistaken. Jesus gets crucified." And in Christianity, they're like, "Okay, he's gonna return at some point, right?" And then Muhammad comes along and says, and says, this means peace be upon him, say after his name, but he says he's the final messenger. This is a
He
wrap.
says,
It's
my
done.
man's not coming. This is me.
It's a
This is
wrap.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody believes that there's that next one, but they don't believe that other side.
Right.
But
But
if-
Muhammad's
if
on a
you-
vibe of listen, it ends here.
Yeah, but
I hear him.
so I
strong.
want to say, sorry, I just want to get into evangelical Christians, especially in America. They believe that the second coming, the world will never end, or the day of judgment will never come until the Jewish people either go back. I think it's either go back to Israel, and Israel is a Jewish land, or they accept Christianity as they're supposed to.
Right.
So evangelical Christians are the biggest supporters of Zionism because they're trying to advance the
To that
ending of
time.
this world,
Yeah.
right? So they're basically saying like Jesus is not coming back until these men have their land and they accept Christianity. So they're on that side essentially.
And then obviously if that happens, then Jesus rolls up.
Yeah, and evangelical Christians are probably one of the biggest and most influential lobbying group in the U.S.
Yeah.
So it goes back to how the U.S. supports.
Whereas Islamically, basically, how this kind of plays out is, they say one of the signs of the last hour is that it says the children of Israel will be given 2 moments of strength in people, yeah, so in what they do in their governing, and each time it will be when they. Sorry, I phrased that all the way wrong. Long story short, there will be 2 times where the Jewish people will be most powerful, and each time it will be when they enter the mosque of Al-Aqsa, and it's twice. So it happened in the Babylonian times, which was the first time around, and from scripture, this is the second time that it's happened. And they say that the Palestine will never be given back to the Muslims, yeah. It will be handed over to the Christians, and then from there a war will happen between the people. this is scripture, so I'm not like,
Okay.
do you know what I mean? So
Alright.
that's how that's playing that out. But
All right.
It's a dark place to close it.
Yeah, that is a
it's
dark
just
way to
like-
close it. Still.
it's not.
But I
it's
won't be
just,
here.
you
I don't
know,
even think I'll be here by then. I'll just be obviously with who like
With
whoever's
what?
running things up there, just watching what's going
You're
on,
gonna- you're gonna be back in
and saying,
Jerusalem.
"Yo, this is mad. What you're gonna interrupt? Like, yo, we need some
screaming.
fake." Yeah, because listen, like if we're gonna be up there, obviously with God and whatever, and like it's all going, it's all kicking off. At some point, man's gonna be like, "Fam, yo, we gotta like, yo."
Are you though?
We might have to. Yo, we might have to. Should I go down there?
Boys.
Hey, should I come back?
And I might be like, yo, fam, it's me, bro. Forget everything else, bro. It's me.
You try to
Yeah,
really try to
that's
reason.
right.
You're trying to reason with God right now.
All right, listen.
Crazy.
All right, look. Before we leave, what is one thing that everyone needs to go and see and check out? It could be anything. It could be a brand. It could be a documentary. It could be a sock. It could be anything. Just one thing that people need to see or know about.
I'm gonna plug myself.
Or Instagram. Oh yeah, do that.
I'm gonna
Plug
plug
yourself.
myself. Why
Do
not? I have a podcast called Conscious Conversations on YouTube. Go check that out. It's a vibe. Also,
You're coming back here.
I'll be back.
Yeah, you're
Don't worry
coming
about
back.
it.
So
I'm gonna invite.
He's like, am I coming back?
No, I was looking
So what? Say that again?
I'm kidding.
He was like, am I coming back?
Oh no, dog.
like, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so Conscious Conversation on YouTube, check it out. Let me know what you think, X, Y, and Z. Also, to all the women out there, I'm a boxing coach and I'm doing women's
Swear.
boxing boot camp in June. So
read
come
that.
on. So all the women, yeah, self-defense, trying to look good for summer, all of
Strong.
that. It's all everything's on my social media, so all on my IG. So hopefully that'll be linked.
Love
somewhere,
that,
do
love
you know
that.
what I mean? But yeah, also I have so much.
You only had one. Yeah?
The one
Two
Take it
already.
up. I know,
I'm
two
here, I'm
already.
finessing it, I'm
Yeah?
finessing it.
Nyamming up bare space.
All I'm saying is just big things coming. Look out for it.
Alright, so no.
Alright.
Go on, brother.
Go ahead.
I don't really do much, but actually,
Wow.
Actually, what I'll say is follow Take More Photos on Instagram.
Yes.
Take more
Shout out,
photos.
take more photos. Love them.
Take my photos.
No,
take more.
No, take more photos.
Take more photos.
Yeah, we just
They're
did
the guys who got the hat that you fucking love.
Oh, sick.
Same
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. Oh.
Yeah, we all run in the same family.
Yeah, can I bust
Shout out
me
to
with the next
Gausho.
one of them?
They ain't
hats?
got
Oh,
any in the color that you want, bro. The amount of times I've asked Nifty.
Shout out to Gausho. Shout out
Ain't
to
they got
Ali.
like a next hat again? Though? They
Bro, they're not restocking.
You have my number. We'll figure something out for you,
say
sir.
that, yeah.
But over at TMP, Take More Photos
Yeah,
on
man.
Instagram, we just did a short video on Instagram for Eid.
Yeah,
we
sick.
called-
Very sick video.
We called some of our favorite photographers in London who are Muslim. We kind of talked about how their family celebrates Eid, and we found that there's a very similar themes depending on where you are from the world. So it's like food, community, and like giving was like a common thing we kept seeing, and that's something that you see across all faiths.
Right.
Great video. We're looking to do more stuff. Those are my guys. Like I've known them before I even moved here. So me moving here was kind of them taking a faith in me, and they let me direct that video for my first thing. So
Sick.
That's lit.
shout out to them. But another video coming. CALUM is family. So we
Yeah.
Oh, well,
G.
you know what? Do you know each other?
Yeah, man. Well, I met
I
you a couple.
Oh yeah, of
months
course.
ago.
I met him. Shit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you met him through me.
Wow.
I've known those for a couple months, but I've known the
I
guys
didn't
that take
even
more
tell you
photos
he
for
was coming
years.
in. So wait, did you text him and tell him I'm rolling?
No,
out?
I just saw him as he came in. I was like, yo.
actually no. I'll say one thing. I was looking for an apartment.
Okay, so people who don't like maybe not understand. Basically, he was here watching an episode.
The one with Usher.
Oh yeah, the Usher and Chris Brown.
Brown
Yeah?
thing,
Yeah.
And then so I dropped you to the train station. or
Yeah,
something.
me and Nifty.
Yeah, because you was with Callum
Yeah.
doing like and one other brother, innit?
Nifty.
Yeah, Nifty. Yeah,
Right,
who
yeah,
also
yeah.
runs.
So
Take More
Nifty
Photos.
he runs
cool.
TMP. But Callum took my number because I was looking for some apartments and then never texted me. So
Oh, I was
on
one
it.
of them, man.
Wow.
One of them, man. These times now he's
Yeah.
living in some plush.
I heard.
You
I heard.
understand what I'm saying? With a balcony and
Yeah.
that, and some office and.
I was trying to get a room too.
These man got an office and all of
Yeah.
that.
But
These
one-
creative
one thing I'll say-
fuckers.
Wait, you're talking to a creative fucker.
Actually.
But what I'll say is at TMP we do a lot of content and strategy for like brands and people who are looking to do content.
Right.
So if anybody wants to have a conversation about advertising, marketing, social media, holla at us.
Yeah, and TMP are legit, man. Proper legit.
That's lit.
All right, and on my side, I would say right now, like as we recording this, there was something on Channel 4 that I did. Yeah, it's
man.
called
Ooh.
it's called The Year Britain Stopped. Yeah, but you can watch it back now. It's on Channel 4. What is Channel 4's
4OD?
like iPlayer?
4OD.
4OD. 4 on demand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on 4 on demand and watch The Year Britain stopped. Yeah, a little doc I did with Channel 4.
wait to
Yeah,
watch
What's
we
it about?
love to see it.
Callum, you got one?
No, that
Oh, cool.
to be honest, that was actually gonna be mine. Funny.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry. Can I do one more thing?
Okay. Also,
Can I do one more thing?
no. Go on quickly.
So you're not
quickly,
talking about-
very quickly.
Small Acts by the BBC.
Oh yeah,
the
yeah, we
Stephen
did that.
Queen thing.
We did that
That's
already.
Hard.
Yeah.
That's the best piece of British content
did
that I
that
took in the
I
last
agree.
year.
I agree.
Also, I just want to end this by saying as well. Obviously, I hope that you wasn't offended by questions that I asked. I hope that you also, because sometimes I had to, do that just for my own understanding and stuff. I'm just trying to learn. I'm trying to understand. I'll have a couple more of these again. You already know the type that I want to do next time around. Also, as I said, yeah, man. Life is a complex one, you know what I mean? These type of things, like, I think if we sat and tried to get into the nuts and bolts of everything, we would be here for hours. So again, I was just trying to make an understanding of some things, and I guess we'll do it again soon. But thanks for listening, everyone. Yeah.